Quasi-experimental designs, or QEDs, test whether there is a causal link between an intervention and an outcome. Unlike in experimental studies, such as randomized controlled trials, in QEDs participants are not randomly assigned to an intervention or control group. Instead, we look to identify or create a comparison group that is as similar as possible to the intervention group on characteristics that may influence the outcomes of interest. The purpose of the comparison group is to capture what would have been the outcome if the program or intervention had not been implemented. This is known as a counterfactual. It is important to note that QEDs are not always as robust as RCTs when it comes to creating this counterfactual group. Random assignment is the best way to ensure that the groups are as similar as possible across different characteristics. However, it is not always possible to randomize participants to intervention and control groups. QEDs offer a flexible alternative. There are many types of quasi-experimental designs which create the comparison group or counterfactual in different ways. All require careful thought, as each QED approach comes with several assumptions. Here are just a couple of examples. The difference in differences method compares the changes in outcome over time between an intervention group and a comparison group. The logic behind this approach is that if the intervention had never happened, the counterfactual, then any difference in group outcomes would have stayed consistent over time. However, if the intervention does take place, we would expect a different difference between the intervention and comparison group after the intervention than before. That difference in the difference is the estimated causal impact of the intervention. Regression discontinuity design can be used in situations where access to a program or intervention is determined by a threshold or cutoff point. For example, imagine a program that provides financial assistance to students with a family income below a certain threshold. Students just above the threshold don't receive assistance, while those just below it do. We assume that such students are otherwise very similar to each other, so those above the threshold of eligibility become the comparison group. If the financial assistance is having an impact on academic performance, we would expect a jump or discontinuity in the academic performance of students who received the financial assistance compared to those just on the other side of the eligibility threshold. There are also a number of matching techniques you can use to generate a comparison group that is similar to your intervention group on important variables that you assume matter for your outcome. For example, in a method called propensity score matching, a score is calculated for each individual which captures their likelihood, referred to as their propensity, to be part of the intervention based on their characteristics. Take the example of a summer school where selection to take part is based on a student's GCSE scores and family income. These characteristics would be used to calculate their propensity score. Then, we match individuals who took part in the summer school with those who did not, based on their propensity score. By comparing the outcomes of people in the intervention group with those in the matched comparison group, we can make inferences about the causal impact of the intervention. Many other forms of QEDs exist, and all require large amounts of data and a robust understanding of the statistical techniques used to generate the counterfactual or comparison group. But QEDs are flexible and can make good use of data that has already been collected around an intervention, and so offer a good alternative when randomization and randomized controlled trials are not an option. To find out more about QEDs and other evaluation methods, visit the TESO website.